You got us on. Okay. For those who may be listening, other than the people here in the courtroom, we do not have a quorum for our meeting tonight. We are going to ask Mr. Atkinson, Todd Atkinson, to give us a presentation on a water tower that we're looking at for Water District Number 2. If at any time during this meeting, one of the councilmen should come in, we'll stop what we're doing and open the meeting as a regular meeting. But other than that, there's nothing we can vote on or make decisions on. But I can bring up some communications that we have and some things that are going on. So Todd, if you would.
Thank you, Supervisor Lizzie. Let's get on the sheet here. Do a quick little. I'm Todd Atkinson with Full Shedding Associates. I'm the engineer for.
Let me stop you, Todd. Go back to the microphone. There we go. Okay.
Todd Atkinson with Full Shedding Associates. I'm the engineer for the Samuel Fredman Trust. It's, as many of you know, it's the trust that's actually taking part in phases 1 and phases 2 of new potable water lines down in Fort Montgomery. On top of that, I'm also hired by the Corbin Hills Homeowner Association to be the engineer of record in their review of actually looking to connect from their existing potable public-private water supply. It's not town, it's a private water supply, but it's a public water supply. As many of you know, on top of Corbin Hill, they would like to connect to the town's water supply, and there are negotiations currently with the Corbin Hills Water Corp to move forward with taking over the actual private water supply, and then moving forward beyond that to actually work with the town to connect to the town's water district number 2. They're currently already in water district number 2 and already paying some monetary amount to water district number 2 for the last 13 or 14 years. And what I've done is, in discussions also with your town attorney, Justin Ryder, and Kelly, the town controller, we discussed looking at a couple different alternatives to I guess rectify a situation that the town has with a water tank and an agreement that they have with the village right now of looking at potentially putting a water tank in.
Correct.
One of the things that would come along with this connection would be to take over the water tank that's currently, the 50,000 gallon water tank that's currently installed already in operation at Corbin Hills, and make that part of District 2's water system, which is also beneficial to District 1 as well. So what we did was we ran my numbers are very linear here, and I compared what would be considered, I guess, apples to apples, and Justin, I think, could get into a little bit more discussion on a couple of these numbers. But we looked at $100,000, $150,000, and $200,000. And what I tried to show here in the third column over talks about the 2016 Water District number 1 and 2. That's the point system, I guess, that totals right now, that the way the town has everything aligned. Water District number 2, the points are approximately $31.60 each. Water District number 1, I'm unsure what it is, but I think it's probably slightly lower than that. Justin might have it right there.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The points in Water District 1 at the moment are $17.24 per point.
Okay, and then I think the water districts are broken up, that the Water District number 1 is approximately 1/6 the size of Water District number 2. So
That's correct.
in doing my numbers, I used $31.60 across the board on here, when in retrospect, 1/3 of that should actually be at roughly 50% less, or 45% less. So we can go back and look at those numbers a little bit more in depth here as we move forward. But one thing that would happen as part of the connection of the Water District to Corbin Hills is there's 74 homes right now that are paying into the Water District at 7 points. They would then go to 3 additional points, bringing them up to 10 points, which would add an additional 222 points to the system in Water District number 2. That would be the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 6th column over shows you how much 222 points at the current value of $31.60 is equal to. It's $7,015. If you use that to offset the actual yearly costs over 30 years at the percentage rate that's shown here in column 2, you could see how much per annual per point, the cost would actually be affected for those people within those water districts. As I said, that Water District 1 is slightly different. We can rerun these numbers to show what it would be. But take, for example, the $150,000 number if the town was able to secure funding at 2% or in that neighborhood, the cost would be almost a wash. If not, you would save a couple dollars by doing that based on the additional points that you would pick up from the property owners that are now paying 3 more points towards it. So approximately $93 each more a year. So we went through there, and what the Corbin Hills Corbin Hills Homeowners Association is hoping to do is to work, negotiate out a deal, a settlement with the Corbin Hills Water Corporation, and also have a deal in place with the town of Highlands Water District 1 and 2 in order to move forward on this, where part or half or whatever percentage of the costs are borne by the town, and the rest of the costs are borne by the Corbin Hills Homeowners Association. I have Mr. DeRoberts, the Homeowners Association president, here with us tonight, if you have any questions for him, but basically, that was what we're looking at right now, correct? Mr. Cliff Bond is here as well from the law office of John Zarcone. If there's any questions, they represent the Homeowners Association as well as their legal counsel. But moving forward, and I think, Supervisor, you've been in a lot of those meetings. I think that this would be the best interest of the town as well as Corbin Hills Homeowners Association to move forward with trying to get everybody up there on the town water supply. And it would provide a benefit in the fact that as part of some of the town's agreements with the village, trying to find an additional water tank or water supply is actually outlined. I guess it's Amendment 7.
It's an Amendment 7,
Yeah.
correct.
So,
Also speaks in that amendment to the chlorination system as well. which,
correct. And the chlorination system would actually be able to be utilized at this location as well. It's
At the
already
location,
in
okay.
existence. So the cost would be.
I'm assuming that's why we haven't put it in by now.
That is why we haven't put it in, yep. I thought that was best to not
Yeah.
put something in if it can be done in another manner and be a savings to all
Absolutely.
parties.
Yes.
So, at this point, if you have any questions or,
Okay.
But Bill, the questions would have, I've been pretty up with this, going to the meetings and whatever have you, so I'm pretty much up to date on everything. But if you have any questions, right, this is a great time for this.
So tanks have always scared me. Just seeing what the village has gone through with having to maintain their tanks. They're steel. They're huge. So this tank is how big? And it's not steel, right? It's,
this tank is steel.
It is
It's a
steel.
different type of steel, though, than the village's tank. I have first-line knowledge of the village's tank because I was a village engineer when the tanks were redone
Okay.
up to about a year and a half ago. For 10 years, I was a village engineer. Those tanks are definitely constructed in a different manner. This tank is actually a glass line tank. So it's steel with glass. So what you have is, instead of a welded tank, as you'd see at the village, this one's actually a bolted tank with seams. They're inspected every year. The tank is approximately 13 to 14 years old. It was installed probably in 2003, I think, somewhere around that time, when
Approximately.
everything was going on. We can find out more information about that. The village tanks are substantially older. This tank is built on a concrete slab. It's only a 50,000 gallon tank in lieu of the million-gallon tank that's in the half-million-gallon tanks that are over there, so it's substantially smaller. The one thing also you would get as part of this, which is another benefit to the town also had an agreement where there was a $75,000 purchase of a pad location in this location, and that would be part of the deal, and that $75,000 would, not have to
Won't go into all the particulars there, and we have reason to believe we don't necessarily owe all that, but that site's not fully tank ready. But this would, again, largely satisfy your requirements with the village and provide some backup sourcing should there be an issue getting water to that area, and potentially with fire suppression as well. So
the tank is owned and maintained by the water district or by the village would be my other question
sure.
/ concern.
So Right now, it's currently owned by the private water corporation. What the homeowners would like is that we take over ultimately the entirety of the system, including the tank.
Right.
So it would be the tank itself, because there is a benefit to both Water District 1 and 2, even though it sits within the confines of Water District 2. The cost and maintenance of the tank itself would be allocated among the two districts, approximately what Todd said, 16.5% basically to District 1, 83.5% to Water District 2, but it would then be the district expense.
It's more along the line of whether it's village or town from a treatment perspective and inspection, anything having to do with the water quality.
The water quality would still be the village's responsibility. They're providing it to the town.
So they would,
Once it leaves their plant, they're responsible.
right, so they have a vested interest making sure the tank is inspected and that the chlorination system operates to a certain standard at the very least.
The chlorination system would actually would be a backup chlorination system. The issue that we've had in the past, or the town's had in the past, is the far end of the system. The chlorine residual, sometimes during the summer, will dip below the requirement, which is 1 parts per.
Understood,
Okay.
right.
So when that dips below that, at that time, they would be able to add additional chlorine if need be from that location, instead of having to add it from the plant, which then it takes a lot more chlorine to hit that residual down at that point, rather than, being a couple miles further down the line.
It just chefs in the kitchen kind of
Understand.
issue. Is it our guy Pat that runs up there and turns the chlorinator on when he sees the chlorine level
I would assume
out
that.
at
Yes.
spec, or is it
That'd
the
be my
village?
understanding.
Or would
that
it be
it's
the
our guy.
village?
It's my
It would be
understanding
Pat,
that
but he wouldn't be doing that. It would be automatic. Right now, there's actually a chlorine meter in there. It would be monitoring the actual residual at that location, and then we'd have to do the calculations to determine, based on elevation and distance and the quantity in that line down to the farthest point, what our number should be at that location, and then the actual chlorination system itself would inject chlorine when needed.
I don't want to make you guys nervous or anything, like it's a showstopper or something. I just want to make sure that's above board and like that, if
Yeah.
the village has responsibilities, that they be brought on board as early as possible to understand that. And
What you're obligated under the existing agreements with the village is to provide a new chlorinator. So if ultimately the town didn't move forward with this, right, then the idea is that you're constructing a chlorination house, in essence, in close proximity to the meter,
right, where it's
the
measured.
meter pit,
Yeah,
where it's
right.
measured.
One of the ideas that we had, obviously, with the system that's already set up, is the chlorination system is already there. It's already paid for. It could be utilized as a redundant backup system to what's being done.
And what are they using for chlorine? Tablets or liquid?
No, liquid. Yep. But the other thing, too, is that if we added, one thing that was brought up, and I think the supervisor was involved in this, was if we added a chlorination system at the actual vault location on Cemetery Road, everybody that's downstream of there would now have a different tasting water. And I think, when chlorine is being injected at that location, and by getting it as far down into Fort Montgomery as we possibly can, into a location where it's already set up, and it's already been paid for by someone else, would be the best location for it.
And the scale of this is like a 55-gallon drum.
I think it's a 30-gallon drum they have in there.
30-gallon drum they have up there, and that's like a seasoned supply, or is it
I would think for this, because we'd only be running it typically during the summer months, you're looking at a season supply with 30 gallons, and probably even less than that. Probably, I think, I ran the numbers a couple months ago, and at the other location, I think it was going to be about 28 gallons for the period that we thought it would be. So it's very, very minimal. And any other time of the year, obviously you can order that just for the season, and once it runs out, if everything's okay, you just wait till the next season to order it. So.
And it has some sort of orifice in it that prevents it from, people in Corbin Hill from getting, if the pump ran amok or something like that.
Oh, yes, yeah, yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. Yeah, it would have that. On top of that, it would have, it's got a call out right now, so the SCADA system would call out to Pat and let him know if there's an issue with the pump, anything like that. Typically, what it does is it because of the actual detector sometimes gets a little bit of residue on it, and it might get a misreading. So about every 4 to 6 weeks, as long as you keep up with the cleaning on that, you'll have no issue with it.
Just for you, I mean, it's not like uranium. You would know it. You would taste it right away, and yeah.
We have a lot of experience with filtering and chlorine.
Okay.
Being
All right.
added, not being added.
Okay. All right. Okay.
We would prefer the town to do it.
Yeah. All right.
Just to give you a basis of the cost right now that we're looking at, and Justin can tell me if I'm a little off here, but I think we're around $375,000 to make the north and south connection to Corbin Hills, to add a couple of, I think it was 8 additional fire hydrants that are required. There's some, if you've been up there, that are just almost like a little yard drain that are really inadequate. On top of that, we had the well abandonment for the 3 wells. We had the piping reconfiguration inside the building. One of the things that, talking to the health department, that we probably still be required to do is there's 2 booster pumps in there right now that pump up to the higher point of Corbin Hills, the estates areas. Those would still be required at this point, at least in the initial phase. Theoretically, looking at the numbers, we should have enough head on the village's tank to fill that tank with no issue that's at Corbin Hills, as well as providing pressure, at least 20 pounds of pressure to the second floor residents of the top of Corbin Hill Estates. Obviously, we would leave that stuff in line so that if we do have any issue, we can run those pumps and boost up. But the system is actually a dual system right now. Everybody below the plant is running off of gravity. Everybody above the plant is running off of 2 booster pumps.
And that's the way it'll stay. That's how you get turnover in that new tank, right?
Correct,
Is
correct,
that
yep.
The Corbin Hill residents will still get their water out of that tank, which
Correct.
is made up from the village supply.
Yeah,
Okay. All
yeah.
right.
So we'll constantly be filling. You don't want that tank to sit there and become
Right,
stagnant, and then there's
right.
issues with it. No, we don't want that at all.
Okay.
It's going to be constantly going up and down, and based on whatever the village does, if the village does their hydrant flushing and stuff like that, that tank will move even greater because it's at a lower elevation than their existing tanks. So some of that flow would actually be pulled out of the tank. So there'll be adequate turnover. That was a discussion I had with the health department because they were concerned about that as well.
Yep.
One of the one of the odd things about this is we're bringing potable water to potable water. So whereas before, like on Drew, we had to disinfect all the pipes and all that stuff. There's no reason to disinfect pipes, and then the Department of Health had no problem with that either.
Right.
So as they work along, they're not going to have a secondary source of water while they're working. So-
Yeah, there's no backup, there's no temporary water source that has to be established. We have to work a little bit more with the health department to get the actual MOPO, the maintenance and operations, how we're going to do the conversion and how the connections are going to be made and whatnot. But right now, if you're familiar with Cherry Street to the north, there's from what I'm being told, the actual town water department removed it some years ago, but there's about a 6-foot link that's actually removed. So we have a connection point there to go back to the actual valve and make that connection to Cherry Street. And then on the south side, the trust has just brought water all the way to the edge of the property across the back of the elementary school. So there's an 8-inch line there. The intent would be to hook up with an 8-inch line on both sides, ductile iron like it is in the ground right now, and do all the other work and bring that whole thing online. The one other nice thing about hooking Corbin Hills up into this, and that I didn't bring up before, is it goes all the way up to the top of the Corbin Hills Estates, and it even runs down Deer Run to, I think, pretty much to the end of the road there at Deer Run, which now gets you further up the hill than where you are right now. And then that's a huge perk later on down the road. I've already, in working with the hazard mitigation plan, I've already put in for additional funding for the town to try to go further up the line, up Canterbury and out some of the side roads that are up there, to pick up more litigants and more people that might have issues with their wells and don't even know it. Because a typical homeowner would not be testing for the things that the public water supply is testing for, so they might not even know what kind of contaminants they have right now. But this would gain you, I think it's an extra 900 feet further up the road, up Canterbury, that you don't have right now.
Okay.
So,
Any idea of extra revenue for the village as a result of the project? Or
there will be extra revenue for the village. Right now, it's 15,000 gallons a day.
Yeah, I mean, it's these 74, basically, 74
15,000
additional users,
15,000 gallons a
They're about
day?
15,000 gallons.
approximately.
50?
Fif- 1.5.
1.5.
Sorry.
1.5.
1.5. On top of that, there's, if the school gets connected, which is not connected yet, that should be another 1,500. And then potentially for Phase 3, that I'm going to talk to you about it quick after this, if we got a second. For Phase 3 of the truss there would be another, I think it was another 2,000 gallons on top of that. So you'd be looking at somewhere around, I think, 18.5 additional.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got his calculator out now, you better be ready.
Well, I'm just, what, $4 per thousand? What are they doing? 5, 7?
I don't know how that's calculated.
I
Then
probably
that-
have it somewhere in here, Bill.
I know that when it's all said and done, we actually just, a couple weeks ago, we installed the new meters
It's at least
down at,
20,000 a year, if not 3 times that.
at the vault. And we determined that those meters, the old meters are running a little off, and now the new meters are actually giving us numbers that are, I think, around 68,000 gallons a day right now.
Right now.
Yeah, right now. So they'll probably go up in the 75 range because people start watering more and stuff like that per day. But that's still substantially less than where we thought. If you add that number to it, that puts us at 93.5. You have 150,000 gallons as agreed to with the village right now. So you're significantly underneath your
I'm
number.
talking about the meters. Pat looked into the meters on Corbin Hill, the ones to be installed.
Yes.
And apparently, there's no problem. They'll work with our system, what have you. There was only one question about
I know. I talked to Pat today.
subscription.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, there's just the subscription for, they would like, the town would like a 10-year subscription on the actual wireless system. I asked them to get pricing on that so we can incorporate that into the overall price of this job so we can look at it that way. I don't think, in talking with Tom Schmidt, who is the person that sold the
30,000,
meters,
yeah.
I thought it was somewhere less than $100 a meter. So even at the full 74 meters, it's not a substantial cost, but it is money that we have to allocate for. So about probably like $7,500, and that would give the town 5 years of wireless system on.
That's much less than I was talking about, though. I didn't realize the numbers. were-
Well, they'd already purchased the meters, and it's just the actual head that goes on the meters
Yeah.
that they got to swap out. So,
Right.
but Pat's going to get me. He was already talking with them.
He's on top of it,
Yeah, he's
okay.
on top of it. Yep.
Yes, sir?
Well, you don't have a board with you, but all of their decision-making, it's integral that you all ultimately make a decision. So when you have the ability to brief the board, or if you want me to come back and brief the board, or write up some
Well, I would.
analysis for
I
everybody,
would
that's
hope that
fine.
they go online and get this and at least listen to Todd and what he has, and then if we need to call a special meeting to do something, we can, and if not, it'd be 2
Yeah,
weeks.
no,
or another
absolutely, no, that's fine. I'm just,
Yeah, well, one thing I want to say, and to speak on behalf of the Corbin Hill Homeowners Association, is we ran the numbers at 100, 150, and 200. I talked with Justin about this, and one of the things that they feel, right now, the costs are going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of $440,000 total. They were hoping that the town, based on looking at the numbers, and we can revamp the numbers, could come up to some point around the $200,000 mark to meet them kind of halfway on this. They have been paying to the water system for 13 or 14 years without really getting anything for it. The numbers were reduced. I know Justin will probably say, I think they were like 3 points or 4 points, something like that, back for years up till this past year, I think, when they jumped to 7.
correct.
But if you go back and even look at 3 or 4 points over 13 years, it's a substantial amount of money that they've already invested in Water District Number 2. And at this point, they were hoping that the town would see fit based on the numbers and how much it's going to impact everybody, that if they can kind of meet them halfway at the $200,000 number. Obviously, I'm not sure if you want to say anything else, or if Mr. Bond wants to say anything else. No? Okay.
Yes, is anyone else? with-
We've already spoken with
Okay.
retained counsel in addition to
Okay.
Mr. Stockholm. And we've got the green light to basically do the deal that that we've all worked out so hard to put together. So we're prepared to take over the water system. We're prepared to
Just to get on the mic.
Okay. As I said, in keeping with all of the promises we made to each other, we're prepared to take over the water system. We're prepared to transfer it over to the town. whatever the final numbers are, we're prepared to cover our responsibilities according to the bylaws. So we have no impediments whatsoever to the deal,
Good. Very good. Thank you.
other than water.
Excuse me for not remembering his name, but the gentleman from...
Mr. Roberts.
No, I know your name.
Cliff Bond.
Bond.
Anything you'd like to say, or?
No, I think that Mr. Atkinson did everything that we were looking at. I think the only thing I'd like to add is that it's important to get this done as quickly as possible. They really need to get this done by year end. So the board votes on this matter.
I know all about quickly as possible. That doesn't always work, but we most certainly will cooperate anyway. But the state seems to make things very hard sometimes. Anything else? Justin? Keep looking at me.
Yeah, well, I guess the only comment to that would be, right, ultimately, if there is some contribution, whether it's the 200 the homeowners are looking at, or $100 or $150,000, then we'll need meetings, obviously, globally to understand the phasing, the construction, and exactly when money is inputted and whether, right, I would assume the town would bond its portion of any funds, unless there's some other resource. So that will take a little bit of time, although on a project this size, probably not the typical delays that we've been accustomed to.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
You wanted to talk about something else?
Yeah, if you don't mind, I don't want to take, I mean, it's not a quorum, so.
That's the supervisor's prerogative.
And, well, it's kind of, Mr. Roberts, you okay? You look like you wanted to say something else, or you're
All I
good?
was saying that the bank just asked for a simple thing. How much money is going to go on the applications? That's what we're waiting for.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I don't want to belabor it. And right, we've been in a lot of meetings together. But there's how that part of the process works, right? If, again, we've talked about this in the meetings, right? Depending on whether it's all privately done and then turned over to the town, there's different ways of handling it, and there's some cost differences. If it's more that the town is involved in the project, they've got to follow different rules than the private citizens would have to follow. So that's why we probably need a meeting to sort of see what's reasonable and what's most cost effective for you as the residents, certainly, and then what the town contribution is.
I think we're probably gonna have another meeting with the actual, the water corp here in the next week or so, to find out where everybody stands after the meeting we had 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
And then-
but we didn't put anything on the books.
We did not, no. I think
Okay.
that John, Mr. Zarcone is gonna request that something's put on, probably send out a mass email to get everybody on board. Because I think that the other side is now willing to talk about some of their
Right.
their
Okay.
recommendations.
Yeah. So, and I'm sure Supervisor would be happy to attend another meeting.
Sure. What else do I have to do? Yes, Tom.
That's that final item from the last meeting. That's all settled.
Great. Good.
The second thing that I had, if it's okay.
Yes. yeah.
Okay, so
Good.
switching hats and going to working as the engineer for the trust, I have phase 3 plans that were put together that are ready to go out for approval. And I wanted to give them to the town. This is the town's copy. And what we're looking to do is go on.
Three?
One more, that's the support. Okay, so right now, here, we have water up to this point right here. This is Canterbury, Fairman's Way.
Yep.
We have water at this point. This is Jimmy Conley's house
Okay.
right here. So what was worked out with with Judge Fredman and discussed was the potential of running an 8-inch line further up Canterbury. This is Miles Lane. And down Miles Lane, we would leave a stub up on the edge of Canterbury here if at ever time the town wants to keep going further up. But would run around to this location on Miles, and if we go to the next plan, what we're trying to do here is get as many litigants hooked up as possible, as well as town, as residents that might not be litigants, to get them the ability to get a main in front of their house. So this is Miles Lane, comes down here. We'd like to run the line all the way around to here. We've already obtained the easement from Dave Tonneson, who actually owns Miles Lane, which was news to us when we started looking at it, but it's not a town road, it's a private road that this house right here owns. So we've obtained an easement already from him to do this. There's actually a paper road where Brooks keeps going further up and connects to the backside of this, of Miles Lane.
That's Spud's house is over here
Spud's
somewhere?
right here. That's
Oh.
Spud's house.
Oh, okay,
Yep.
okay.
So you're coming up the hill, Brooks. This is Conley?
All right,
No, Campbell. Colleen Campbell.
Colleen, yeah.
This is Spud Roberts. We'd like to come off the line where we've actually ended right here. There's a valve, there's a end cap, and keep running up and bringing this back around. And what that will do is two things. First of all, it'll give us the ability to get the litigants that are in here, which I think there's a total of 9 between here and across the street, get the litigants hooked up, as well as provide water main in front of other houses that if they wish to hook up, they could as well. The judges already got money set aside for doing this work. This is about $600,000 worth of work. They'd like to move forward with it, at least get the county to review it to see if it's acceptable to them. So what I have here is the plans. These are 100% designed, ready to go to for approval. I have the application to the county that I'm going to need eventually a signature on from the supervisor. It would not mean that the work's going to be done at all. It would just mean we're okay to submit for an approval. I'm not sure if it's something we can do tonight or not.
Probably shouldn't.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, I
Just-
need authorization to sign. basically.
Gotcha, okay, no problem. I just want to make you
Yeah.
aware of it, though. How far out does it have, when's the next meeting? A couple weeks?
July 11th.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, so we're looking at about 1,900 linear feet of additional 8-inch water main. Right now, you have a dead-end spur right here, and you have a dead-end spur on Canterbury. This would
So loop
connect the
it.
loop, we'll loop it.
Okay.
What this would also do is you have across the back here, this is the elementary school. Across the back right now, as you know, you saw, we went across Spud's lawn,
Yeah.
kind of like that, came over, we're over here. This would also get rid of potentially, if we did the Corbin Hill set up two other spurs that are now created, one off of Cherry and one off the backside here.
Okay.
So this is trying to get, utilizing the money as best as Judge can, that he has remaining, to get as many litigants hooked up, to provide as much water to non-litigants in the form of a main in front of their property that they can hook up to, and to try to complete your water system so that you don't have those dead ends in areas that can potentially become stagnant.
Tom, when you do something like this and you create these loops, which are generally a good thing, but they can become dead legs themselves, right? It's whatever the preferential flow is, if it goes one way or the other.
So right now, this main goes like this and comes down.
Yeah.
And then there's a main that comes across here.
Right.
But then there's just service connections, each one of the houses.
Right.
So if we had a main that came up and went this way and a dead end over here, that's where you would end up with the additional issues with it. And we try to stay away from that and do as many these other connections to these outlying houses, which is service connections. So you're only feeding with a 3/4 inch line in lieu of running a 6 or an 8 inch line up and creating a low flow area, I guess.
Yeah, but is there like, every time when you create a new loop, is there like a flow analysis done? So,
Yes, actually, it's in the design report. Yep.
Okay, all right. So Pat knows where he's got to test chlorine and where he's got to flush hydrants in the future.
Correct. This will also bring hydrants to this area that it doesn't have, because there'll be a hydrant here. There wasn't a hydrant added as part of phase 2 here. We'll have a hydrant here, a hydrant. There'll be another one in here somewhere. Right there. There'll be one up here, which is one that Pat actually might have talked to you about today, because that was one of his concerns that he had.
Yes, you did.
So the fire department came in and said that when I asked the fire department, they said they want one here too, so they can connect and flow out if need be, or they can actually flush from that location.
Okay.
There's also a air relief manhole here, because of the high point that's created. So every now and then, any of the pressure, air that might get built up in the line will actually be dissipated out of the line at that point. We also have one at this location here. This one will be less used now. That's really going to end up being the high point. This was the high point at the current system.
Okay.
But yes, we've analyzed all that, put together, it's about a 14-page, I'll send it over to you. I think I've already sent it to you. It was sent to you back in early May when I made the initial.
It's somewhere in the pile.
Okay, yeah. So, I'll get you a copy of that. There was a quick analysis done on it. The health department loves the fact that we're doing away with 2 spurs. They love the fact that they're getting additional people off of the wells that are out there.
Yeah.
I'll leave these with you. They're your plans.
Okay.
What I'd like to do though is, for the next meeting, if possible, is come back to a presentation, try to get signatures so we can go to the health department and get a review going.
Sure.
Actually, one thing too, sorry. Funding for this is 100%.
Right, well, that's what I was going to ask, right? So
That was
that's
my
why it should
assumption.
seem appealing to you all. Right?
Yeah.
Getting pipes in the ground at the least expensive way possible.
Yeah. The cost, all the soft costs for engineering, all the permits, any of that stuff, including all the installation, the contract, everything's on the judge.
Nevertheless, right, so why they really need the approval is, right, it's still
Still
going
going
to,
through the town, yeah.
right. So,
The intent here is, and we got to check on this, but the intent is to potentially do this as a change order to the existing contract. That's there right now. Got to look at that, yeah.
Probably the
Little.
simplest way to do it.
The other
it's the
option.
simplest way, but it might be a
the
little
other-
big for a change.
The other option, though, would be to take this completely, and I'm not sure if you do this either, but the judge would also have the ability to use that existing contract himself and just pay directly to the contractor.
Right, that may make more sense to me, but
I think so, too, that's-
But we'll talk,
Mhm.
but certainly
These are the-
behooves the town to want to be cooperative.
Yeah, yeah.
One of the options that the judge saw, or one of the issues the judge saw, was that if you rebid this and the numbers
Sure, yeah.
inflated, it would be kind of senseless to
Right.
award a contract to somebody when you have a contract already still in place
Right.
that could do the work. And it was a unit-funded job, so we're just adding to the.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to leave this with you. Thank you. Okay, and that's all I got. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Aaron, do you have something you want to announce or whatever?
I always have something.
Say what?
I always have something.
I know. That's why I asked.
Just a couple quick notes. Spring baseball and softball ended this past week. Both very successful. We had a big banquet down at Brooks's this past Sunday, which turned out to be great. Even with the parking concern, it kind of worked itself out, and everyone had a great time. So, baseball and softball for youth are all done. Men's is finishing up in about 2 weeks, and women's just started tonight, although they got rained out on the first night. So, that's starting up. We're taking signups for fall soccer. We are introducing this year 4- and 5-year-old soccer. It's called Start Smart. It's basically, if you ever saw 4- and 5-year-olds play, running around the field, kicking the ball for 45 minutes. But it's to introduce them to the game, so when they get into the 6- to 8-year-old league, they kind of have an idea of what they're doing a little bit. So if you're not doing anything on a Monday night, feel free to come down. I think we're going to do it at Brooks's, but it is fun to watch the little kids play. And we're also looking to possibly start spring soccer, at least for the 4- and 5-year-old group and the 6- to 8-year-old group. When you're moving into the 9 to 12, when they have Little League and Ponytail, it's a little hard to coordinate that because they play every day. For the 6- and 8-year-olds, we can kind of limit their days to 2 days a week. So we're looking to see if we can get that started in the spring. I think it'd be a good program. Soccer is really picking up in the last couple of years, and we're losing a lot of our kids to West Point for spring soccer, and they have a great program. But if we can keep them local, that's the intent. Lacrosse ends this Sunday. Again, very successful 8 weeks. We started with 20 and we ended with 20, so we had nobody quit, which is great. We're looking to probably start that up again for another session in September. We'll get through the summer and reorganize and figure out how we want to keep that going in September, because it's a good program. We want to build on it. So once we figure that out, I will let you guys know. I'm working with Kelly Blauvelt for online registration. The IT department is working on our website for people to be able to register for programs from our website versus having to come in to sign up. So I think that's going to be big. We'll see. It's definitely going to make it more convenient, and it doesn't really cost us anything extra, so that's always a good thing. Long Pond and the Roe Park Pool are open every day, starting today. Today was the opening for the Roe Park Pool, and I was up there doing the field at about 11:45, and there was already a line outside the gate. So the kids were excited, and it was a good turnout. And one last thing, the summer rec program starts tomorrow. We have 116 kids that are signed up. We have a few more that are on a wait list that we will hopefully be able to get in this week or next week. We hired counselors to go along with the kids that we had last year. Kelly Hall is doing a good job at arranging the counselors with the kids, but we have a county ratio that we have to follow in order to stay in that ratio. I think it's like 1 to 12, 1 to 10, and it's 1 to 8 for the smaller kids. So she's been juggling the counselors around, trying to get the most out of our group. So hopefully by the end of this week, we'll have 125, 130 kids in the summer rec program. And I think I got everything.
Great. Amazing.
That's all.
Very good.
I did get a email from Chamber of Commerce on the bike race, the cancer bike race. And they had over 200 bikers, raised $800,000. Somebody's got to tell me how they did it, but it sure sounds like an amazing thing. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir. Good evening. How are
Hey,
you?
how you doing?
Glad you're here. There's a couple of things I wanted to do tonight, and I guess we'll be able to.
All right.
Up to now, we didn't have a quorum. So I'll just call the meeting to order with a quorum. And where do I want to start?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting, because it was 3 of us last time, I think.
Okay.
If you had a chance
All in
to.
favor?
Aye.
So carried. Communications. I have a few things here from Dial-A-Bus, Colleen Solon. The Dial-A-Bus is completely fixed to include air conditioning. David Favor filled the bus with 6 pounds of coolant and told Rick Jersey there is no charge. Very nice. Thank you to Rick Jersey, Joe, David Favor for getting the bus into operation. I appreciate the communication and cooperation in getting this job complete. I'm sure that there are other jobs to be done, but they took care of us in a very quick manner. So that's a good thing. Kelly and I met with Marshall Sterling for our health insurance, which I think September the 1st is due to be renewed. Bad news is it's going up somewhere in the neighborhood of 10%. Good news is we may have a choice of 2 different programs. The employees may have a choice of 2 different programs. So I am going to have him come to our next meeting to explain it to the board, and then once the board agrees, we'll follow it up with a meeting with the employees to tell them what we have for them. I have the usual letter from the Office of Aging asking for sponsorship to the RSVP program. That's the 500 retired senior and volunteer program. They put in about $1 million worth of volunteer work. They have a program for them which includes a lunch. Our gold sponsorship would be $125, which we've done in the last 4 or 5 years at least. So I'll ask for a motion to approve it. It's not on the minutes, by the way.
So moved.
Second? Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. If you remember at the last meeting, we questioned Pastor Church of Bilingual of Highland Falls. He had his revival out there. I sent him a letter saying amplified sound must be at a reasonable level. Complaints will cause amplifiers to be discontinued. I understand there was just one small problem and it was taken care of by the police, and so it went off well with no problems. Great. Which I'm very glad to hear. I don't like telling anybody in religion that they can't do something.
Yeah, I went out there myself, and
Did you?
I didn't actually see a problem, so I'd be interested to know.
A female singer or something was very loud.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't there.
Must have missed that one.
Okay.
That's a regular meeting.
We have two budget transfer requests. One is dial-a-bus, $500 from salary to vehicle maintenance. I'm assuming that was the work that they did.
I'll make the motion for that budget transfer.
Second motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have $250 for town clerk, $150 to town clerk other, $150 from town clerk other to town clerk training.
I'll make a motion to approve that transfer.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. I have a request from the Rotary to do a Storm King run. That would be on a bike race. I mean, Storm King, was it a run or a bike race? Let me see.
There's a run.
Was it? Run? Storm
Yeah.
King run. That's closing 2/18. Do we have any objections to that?
No, I don't.
I'll ask for a motion to allow me to sign the permission.
So moved.
Second.
So carried.
What was the date on that?
August the 21st, Sunday, August the 21st. Dial-a-bus employee. As you all know, Patty is leaving. Bill, I don't have the email that we exchanged with Colleen, but you have it, that she's leaving at the end of this month?
Yeah.
Her retirement party's tomorrow night, so
End of July, right?
leaving Wednesday?
Wednesday, I think, is our last.
Wednesday is her last day of this week.
Last day.
I think so.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I
June.
did look into with our controller as to what direction we should go, whether we should try to go part-time, hire another full-time, and the basic numbers I came out with, the benefits that we pay a full-time driver equal about $15,000 a year, benefits, okay? Patty is going to get 75% of her health insurance paid for the rest of her life. So if we take on another full-timer, we've got to pay Patty's benefits, and we have to pay benefits to this one here. I get the idea from Colleen, she would prefer not to go go a part-time route. She claims she may not have enough people to cover it, but my recommendation would be, let's see what happens. I don't know if
Yeah,
you wanna
it's
make-
always easy to go the other way, right?
Sure.
Go to full-time, if part-time's not
I
working.
mean, if we find we got days, too many days during the week where we don't have a driver or whatever happens, then,
I copied the board on my questions for Colleen. I was rather, a little bit apologetic, but it is awkward to talk about going part-time when you have a full-time employee engaged and until, but the nature of my questions were, how many riders, how often, number of riders per trip, how many miles, those type of things. Any data that you might have available for us to gauge whether this indeed can or could be made into a part-time position. So,
and Ty, I think you're liaison to Dial-a-Bus, and one of those odd things that I gave you to do, but maybe if you get a chance, stop by and talk to Colleen and
Okay.
tell her that tentatively, and if you guys are in agreement with this, that we're looking at part-time and not hiring a full-time.
I also asked an email whether there was an outsourcing opportunity, whether it was even legally allowable for us to do so. Yeah, I see some of our part-timers coming from West Point Tours, who run the school, contract with the school,
I haven't looked at the contract recently. I'd have to review it again.
So I'm thinking Colleen might be pretty well versed.
And the one person that did, well, we did put an advertisement in the paper for full-time, part-time. No one responded for part-time. Full-time, one person responded. That person is concerned that if they leave their job, can we guarantee this job? Well, we can't guarantee anything the way the budgets go and whatever have you. So no, I can't guarantee the job. I can't guarantee it beyond this year.
I look quickly at the budget. I mean, the total spend for the department is $69,000 without the benefits line, which is hard to call out. And about half of that is funded by the federal and state contributions. In fact, I have it right here. It's 69,379 is the budget line number, and the town's share of that is 33,479. Again, that's without benefits factored in. It's a large number for I'm not certain how many customers we're really servicing.
Yeah. So Ty, if you get a chance, stop by and talk to her.
I'll do that.
And also, if you get a chance, Todd gave us an extensive review of the Corbin Hill propositions, that water tank, what's going on up there and what have you. This meeting will be on YouTube tomorrow most likely. Review what he has to say. You were there about a good half hour, right, speaking? So it's not something that he can...
Oh, that's great. I'll check it out.
Okay.
Because they would like a decision from the board at our next meeting right, to...
The accident report, policy, I think that Bill wants to table it again, and I think we ought to talk about it with a full board, unless,
Yeah, I agree.
right? Okay, so. I have 3 proposals from 3 engineers to do a environmental benefit permit strategy for the Fort Montgomery sewer plant. I reviewed the 3 proposals, and I'm not sure if I need to give the names of the companies or it's not like a bid, or the dollar amount?
No, it's not an open bid process. You were soliciting bids, but the process doesn't work the same way. If you have one proposal that you want the board to be aware of, that's fine. Depends on the nature of the discussion, whether you'd need to go further than that.
Justin reviewed the 3 proposals. Bill, did you see them?
Yes, I did.
You did, and my recommendation would be McGooey and Hauser.
It's McGooey, Hauser, and Edsel, and there is no known relationship.
You always
with
bring that up.
Yeah, it's just so.
So if I could have the board's permission to go into a contract with them to do this report.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried. The town clerk replacement process. Oh. Oh, that's in a couple of years. The comptroller's office to replace the account clerk.
Account
clerk. I just wanted to see if you were listening, that's
I
all.
was listening, thank you.
I got it down on my desk.
to
There are
get the
12
minutes right on that.
There are 12 people on the list. We have to replace from the list, so we're going to have to canvass the entire list of 12 people. Only 3 people on the list, and they are on the lower part of the list, are reasonably located. One is Harriman, 2 are Monroe, if I remember right. The rest of them are Middletown, Pine Bush, stuff like that. So Kelly's going to have to canvass them all.
Okay.
and get it, go from there. And if no one on the list wants to come down here and work for us, then we would be able to hire someone else, but that person would have to take a test, much like Aaron right now.
It's
Aaron,
the
you got
same
your
test that
in
Aaron
October,
takes,
right?
or is it,
Sorry,
You got your test in October?
October.
is it the same test for an accountant as it is for a rec director? Aaron?
No,
They're all different.
specific.
Okay.
They're different. You're correct.
District update we just did. That's the whole agenda. Do we have anything else? Ty, you got anything to bring up?
Just two things. One, I would say, obviously, we building up to Juneteenth, and now it's completed and over with. I want to say thanks to all of the community that contributed in one way or another, whether it be with your donations or whether it be with your time as a volunteer. But very, very successful events throughout the weekend, and folks are looking forward to that continuing next year.
Great.
Yeah, so, and I want to say hats off to Miss Venetia Jackson and also Miss Brenda Joy Griffith, two of the probably most notable people here in Highland Falls with all their running around, but they're champions. They've done so much to make this thing happen this particular year. So thank you to those folks if they're looking. The other thing was, I don't know how many people got an opportunity to see the bike ride out there, but it was fabulous. A lot of people put a lot of work into that. Chamber of Commerce and other volunteers and even just community members, businesses that gave our community an opportunity to shine. And so, again, hats off to the town of Highlands, the Highland Falls, to all the committees involved. I just think that it's a great time to be a resident when you see all these kinds of things going on.
Before you came in, I mentioned there were supposedly 200 participants and $800,000.
Wow, that's big. Yeah. And I heard Mr. Teddy Minetti rode 100 miles. I cannot believe it, but 100 miles. Unbelievable. So hats off to Teddy, and I know Miss Maureen Ariza also did a substantial amount of miles. So we got some champions out there.
They're hilly miles, too.
Yeah, I'm trying to get at least 1 mile in this week. We'll see how that goes.
Bill, do you have anything more?
Just the consolidation committee is still waiting for the next meeting. It's still a data gathering, so it's quite delayed, but they say the next meeting is imminent, and
Is there a date or anything except for next?
no date set yet, no.
I think I've mentioned everything I had. Anything more? Anyone else? Public
Supervisor.
comment? Mr. DeRoberts? No?
Yes, Supervisor. I don't know if it's, I believe it's the request of Cliff Bond, but to have a brief executive session related to some of the particulars on the Water District talk that are more appropriate in that session based on negotiations or contractual nature or the litigation that's ongoing. So that's their request.
I'll make a motion and we go into executive session to discuss negotiations in the Water District.
Assuming there's no other public comment, right?
But I don't think so.
Right?
Yeah.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So carried.
I believe they wanted the homeowners' representatives to attend as well.
That's fine. So I'm going to have to ask everyone, we're only going to be a few minutes, or how long are we going to be?
That'd be my expectation. I mean, Todd gave a thorough presentation, so I
Okay.
think it would be brief.
So Tierney, if you would turn off the camera and everything else, and please leave the room and make sure it's off.